Hey guys, so since it's most of our first times using TinkerCAD to build and simulate some circuits, I just wanted to go through how I would go about building circuit number one, almost as a review. So um, when we're moving through each of our different circuits as our little like lab activities, hopefully each one gets a little bit easier because they do build on each other. So the first thing I like to do when I open a new circuit is just pull in all the components I need. You can find the list of components that you need for circuit number one on that Google Doc that I shared with you. That includes some questions and some descriptions about circuit number one. So the first thing I need is a battery. I'm going to pull that in. I also need a switch, and it's going to be a push button switch. I need a resistor, and I'm pretty sure going back to our lab Google Doc that we need a resistor that is 1 kilo ohm, so that's perfect, that's default. I need an LED, and I'll keep it as red, and the last thing I need is a breadboard. And I always like to use the breadboard small. The breadboard mini is harder because you don't have those positive and negative channels, and the bigger breadboard is just unnecessary. So we're always, for the most part, going to use the small breadboard. So now that all my parts are in here, I just want to kind of rotate them and orient them in a way that makes sense to me. It's really totally up to you, depending on how you like to kind of build your circuits. All right, so we have our breadboard and we have our 9-volt battery. The first thing you want to do is wire up the 9-volt battery to the positive and negative channels of the breadboard. So I'll just start with negative. And as, like I said, as we get practicing with this, you'll kind of understand how to do this to make it look the most neat and clean. Since this is negative or 0 volts, I'm just going to change it to black just so it's consistent. Then I have the positive side of the battery going to one of the positive pins in the breadboard, and I'm going to change that to red. So the first thing I'm going to put in, this is how we drew our circuits back in the drawing circuit diagrams worksheet. We did actually draw this simple series circuit. The first thing I'm going to wire up is my push button switch. You always want to wire up the push button switch along the channel. So I'm actually going to rotate this and then place it over the channel. So you have the 2 legs or the 2 terminals of the push button switch on one side and the 2 on the other side. You just want to do this so you don't get any interfering of any wires. So just like our circuit, which you probably already drew, you're going to go from the positive side of the battery to one side of the switch. And I'm just going to change that to red again because that's power, okay? In my mind, I always know that a red wire means power. The next thing you're probably going to want to wire up is the resistor. So I'm just going to put in the resistor somewhere vertically. And you want to put it vertically so that it's not connected to itself. If I turn the resistor and wired it up like this, and I think that's row 11, that resistor is technically wired to itself because all pins in row 11 are connected. And we obviously don't want this resistor to be connected to itself. So I'm going to just change it. There we go. So that's perfect. And now I need to connect the other side of the push button switch to the first side of the resistor. And I'm just going to change that to yellow, a random color. There we go. You can see my LED now. Okay. And then the last thing that we have to wire into this circuit is our LED. The negative side of the LED is the cathode, and it's nice. TinkerCAD has it labeled for you. The positive side of the LED is the anode. the negative side of the LED always goes back to the negative side of the battery. So if I need to wire the positive side of this anode to the resistor, I actually need to turn this all the way around, kind of like I did the resistor. You don't want it to be aligned horizontally again because you don't want the LED to be connected to itself. I'm going to connect one side of the resistor to the positive side of the LED. That's connected because everything in that channel, I think that's row 17, is connected through the breadboard. And then the last thing I need to do in order to kind of finish our circuit and get a closed loop system is connect the cathode of our LED back to ground or negative. And you can draw diagonal lines, that's totally fine. As long as you get it connected to one of these negative pins, you're good. And I'm going to change that to black just because I know that's kind of 0 volts. That's getting back to negative. So once you think you have your circuit set and properly constructed, you're going to come up here and press Start Simulation. And when you press the push button switch and hold, your LED should stay on. And when you let go, your LED should turn off. Kind of cool.